Welcome everybody to another edition of Fins Up Podcast with your host Chad Martin, JC Martin. We're talking another edition of Ole Miss football, really everything Ole Miss, but there's not really a lot of good things to report. You know, we know about the football team, but same can kind of be said for a lot of the other sports at Ole Miss right now.
It's a rough day as being an Ole Miss Rebel fan.
It is. I mean, now I will say this: the women's volleyball team. They were, what did they do? They defeated Alabama 3-1 Sunday afternoon. Behind a season high hitting percentage in SEC play, hit .293. SEC leading 14th double-double from junior hitter Lexi Thompson. So there is your bright spot in Ole Miss sports. After that, it gets kind of depressing. And we got to talk about it. But you know what? I've been looking for a way because I hate doing these podcasts because they've been losing so much and trying to find the bright spots to talk about. You don't want to come on a podcast. You really don't want to listen to a podcast where all we're talking about is depressing stuff and start beating up on the team. And that's not really what we want to do. So, yes, we know they lost to Auburn. Yes, it was ugly. It was 40-29. It was close in the first half. Another good first half from Ole Miss. And again, where they let down in the second half. And you can point to the defense. We know the story of the defense by now. It's not good, especially when you get to the back two-thirds of the defense. It's not. I mean, you know, Marquise Haynes is a beast. He can only do so much by himself. And I say that, but I mean, that whole front line is pretty decent.
Right.
It's just
Braylon Speaks is good.
It certainly is.
It's gotten to a point that, I mean, of course, every team at this point in the season is beat up.
Yes.
But what's important going into every season is you know that at some point, your players are going to get beat up. People are going to get hurt, and you got to have depth. And this Ole Miss team doesn't have that depth.
No, they don't.
Whether it's in the secondary, whether it's at linebacker, whether it's at offensive line, or running back for that matter, they just don't have the depth to go through a long and arduous SEC conference schedule.
Well, exactly. But let's talk about the bright spot. And people, they're up and down, and we've been up and down on him all year. But honestly, the best thing to happen at Ole Miss right now is Chad Kelly as far as their football program, especially this year. Because without Chad Kelly, they're probably not in any of these football games.
No,
I mean, with the way they've been playing, without Chad Kelly, they really don't stand a chance. He's been putting up numbers. He's put up another just great, football game against Auburn. He threw for a school record 465 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's crazy. He threw 59 passes.
Which is ridiculous.
Nuts. Yeah, I mean
that's dumb. Like, there's no reason your quarterback should ever have to throw the ball 59 times.
That's right.
Now, especially not in an SEC game, because if you're throwing the ball 59 times in an SEC game, odds are you're probably going to lose, or you're playing catch-up football. Now, in the Big 12, you can get away with throwing 59 times just because that's the style of play in the Big 12.
That's right.
Everyone runs that spread offense. So if you hear, Patrick Mahomes II from Texas Tech threw the ball 59 times in a game, you're like, well, that's just another Texas Tech game.
Exactly.
But when you see those numbers in an SEC game, it blows your mind because they're largely inflated. They're not it's not productive numbers.
Exactly.
You got these numbers because of the fact that you threw 59 times.
Now, he broke Archie Manning's 47-year-old single-game passing record. Archie had 465 yards. Again, 47 years ago that this happened, which tells you what he's having to try to do to bring a victory to the Rebels football team.
And then he added another 40 yards on the ground to Chad Kelly. So, I mean, he ended the day with over 500 yards of total offense. But, yeah, like you said, I mean, to your point there, Chad Kelly is the end-all, be-all with this team this year.
He is. I mean, it's easy to get down when you're losing. He throws an interception here and he throws an interception there, but what else can he do? And we've talked about it earlier, and I really do liken him to Tony Romo of a few years ago when for Dallas, Tony had no offensive line. He had no help. He was running for his life most of the time back there at quarterback and almost single-handedly had to win ball games for them. When they were going 8-8, people say they're an average team. They really weren't. But if it's not for Tony Romo, they don't even win that many. The same thing is true with Ole Miss this year because without Chad Kelly back there, they don't win.
Right.
They're not going to win.
Right. I mean, without Chad Kelly, then you think They don't beat Georgia the way they do.
Exactly.
Maybe they win the game, but they don't beat down Georgia the way they
That's
did.
right.
You think they still beat Wofford? You think they'll still probably beat Georgia Southern, maybe beat Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
Without Chad Kelly leading this team, you probably think of this team as a 3-win total team.
Yeah.
Now they're only 3-5 right now, but like you said, I would rather have Chad Kelly on the squad than not, because if they don't have Chad Kelly, you're looking at a 1-win Ole Miss team going into this week.
Exactly. And what you better do, if you're an Ole Miss fan, what you better do is you better appreciate these next 4 games. Even though we know after this Georgia Southern game, we've got Texas A&M, and they have they're number 4 in the college football playoff initial rankings right now, left over Washington.
Undefeated Washington.
Exactly. So, and that's based on the strength of schedule. That is not going to be an easy game. We thought earlier in the year that was going to be a very winnable game.
Right.
Now it's looking like it's going to be almost impossible. It's going to be a tough mountain to climb right there. But I think the Texas A&M game, when we get to that next week, that's going to be one of those games where they're going to have to play perfectly. And again, it's going to rest on Chad Kelly's shoulders to try to pull Ole Miss's, fat out of the fire.
And with that Texas A&M game, that game's going to be a lot of Myles Garrett trying to beat whatever left tackle Ole Miss puts out there.
Yeah.
And he's got all the ability to do it. And Chad Kelly's going to have to run for his life a lot in that Texas A&M game. So, that's going to be one of those games where you could see these type of numbers again. Just because Ole Miss may very well be playing from behind the whole game, and you'll see largely inflated numbers for the wide receivers as well. Yeah. Adebojo, Stringfellow, Jefferson, whoever it might be. They're gonna run a lot of routes.
Yeah, and Ole Miss had opportunities in the Auburn game. The second half is again where we saw them fall apart. They only scored 7 total points in the second half after actually going into halftime with the lead.
Right.
And you saw drop passes. One surefire touchdown was dropped, and then he had that interception, I think, on the very next play.
Yeah, Evan Ingram dropped a wide open touchdown. Wide open. And we're talking about the best tight end in college football right now. So Evan Ingram dropped that pass. Chad Kelly came out there and threw the interception. And people can complain about the interception all they want, but if Evan Ingram makes that catch, then Chad Kelly's not out there to throw an interception.
That's right.
And Ole Miss would have taken the lead at that point, and we don't know what would have happened after that if Auburn would have gone back down there and scored to recapture the lead. But Ole Miss was in a very winnable situation in this game, and they collapsed on themselves.
Exactly. So, but that was last week. Moving on to hopefully what should be a feel-good game this week. There is no reason they should not completely destroy Georgia Southern. I'm not going to say it won't happen that Georgia Southern can win. Actually, I am. There's no way. I think Ole Miss is going to come out there. They need this feel-good story going into next week with Texas A&M. Yeah,
you've got to win this week so that you have something to play for next week.
That's right.
You're sitting at 3-5. You can only afford one more loss all season.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got to win 3 of the next 4 if you want to go to a bowl game, become bowl eligible for that matter. You may not even get an invitation to a bowl game, but you got to win 6 just to get the invitation.
That's right.
So they've got to beat Georgia Southern. I'm not going to hold my breath and think that they'll beat Texas A&M. So there's your 1 loss right there. You're already at 6 losses. You only got 12 games, so you got 6 losses. You have to have 6 wins to go to a bowl game. But you got to beat Georgia Southern, so you're feeling good about yourselves to give yourself an opportunity to maybe upset Texas A&M. But then you got Vanderbilt and Mississippi State after that. We've seen that Vanderbilt and Mississippi State are terrible teams this year. So there is every chance in the world for Ole Miss to end the season 6-6 and maybe get a bowl invitation of some kind.
Yeah, that's really what you're hoping for at this point, is that they can do that and pull something off and get a bowl game.
And it's a terrible feeling, though, to go into this knowing that you may end up, in the Liberty Bowl. Especially after last season, you got the invitation to the Sugar Bowl.
Exactly.
And not only got the invitation to the Sugar Bowl, but went to the Sugar Bowl and just beat the brakes off Oklahoma State.
Exactly. And it's a big letdown, but at this point, you really can't look back and do the ifs and maybes and couldas and shouldas. But you better live in the moment right now, and you better take care of business against Georgia Southern. And miracles can happen. and they could go into Texas A&M and beat these guys.
Right.
And
that's what we're hoping for.
That's exactly what we're hoping for. And they could get on a run. Who knows? I mean, we say this all the time. You look back at college football this past weekend, toss anything. Upsets happen every week.
Right.
They happened a lot this past weekend. I mean, there were upsets galore. So it's not to say that it can't happen. We're going to try to look on the bright side of these next few weeks and say, you know what, if they play solid football, and it goes with any game that they played this year, if they play solid football, they can win. They can go up against anybody. But if these other guys, at some point, these other players are going to have to step up.
And you know, going into this season, Chad Kelly was largely considered a first-round talent in quarterback. Late first round, early second round. And I mean, I thought that was a suitable spot for him, just depending on, you know, based on how we saw him play last year, because that's really all we had to go off of. Because other than that, you basically got his 1 year at East Mississippi Community College, and that's lower level competition, so you can't really use that. But his junior year at Ole Miss, played out of his mind. I think we would have liked to see the touchdown numbers a little higher. I mean, he threw 26 touchdown passes, but you want that a little higher because he also threw 13 interceptions last year. But starting with this Georgia Southern game, and that is the schedule for the rest of the season. Georgia Southern, Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State. This is Chad Kelly's chance to prove to all the critics going into the NFL draft that, hey, I do have first round talent. I do deserve to be in that first round, or possibly early part of the second round, because I'm of the opinion anyway that since they have been losing games, they're sitting at 3-5 right now. Since they have been losing games, it has probably lowered his stock. It's no different than the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
You can have a guy throw for 6,000 yards with 70 touchdowns and only throw 10 interceptions, but if his team has 3 losses, he's not winning the Heisman.
No, that's exactly right. It makes your win-loss record makes a real difference on how teams see you. Even if we just went over his numbers from the game against Auburn. He lit Auburn up really. If Ole Miss has any kind of running game, and I'm talking about a threatening running game. I'm not talking about just sticking a running back out there and handing him the football. We've seen when they're not very good at doing that. Yeah. But if they had a legit running game, there's no telling what they could really have done to opposing defenses. And if their defense could stop somebody, they win several more games this year.
Yeah, and then scouts are going to be looking at Chad Kelly in an entirely different light at that point.
Exactly.
So this is really going to be Chad's chance to prove himself. Granted, Georgia Southern's not great. Well, they're terrible, really. Georgia Southern's terrible. Vanderbilt's not great. And Mississippi State's not good. So even though the competition is going to be low for the next 3 of the next 4 weeks, you are still playing 3 SEC games.
Yeah.
So that's a huge. Just the fact that the Vanderbilt and State games are SEC games, in and of themselves, are going to give Chad the opportunity to vault himself up these draft boards.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's going to be. I think it'll be fascinating to see how scouts see him and view him. It's going to be weird because of. I bring up Dak Prescott because he went in the 4th round,
right?
In the conditional part of the 4th round,
at the end of the 4th round,
exactly. So how will teams view Chad Kelly coming off this season? View the type of quarterback and the passing style. He's got that gunslinger mentality. Where are they going to see him at come draft time? We could see him fall completely out of the first day, second day, maybe into the 3rd day, and just.
Which, it would be a shame because, as Ole Miss fans, we know what we have in Chad Kelly.
That's right.
And of course, you talk to any Ole Miss fan, and they are thankful that Chad Kelly came to Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And took us to the Sugar Bowl last year, and we got that win. But now, you compare him to a gunslinger, and, you compared him to Tony Romo earlier. But, Romo looked up to Brett Favre.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about 3 guys who played the same style of football, but, like you said, Chad Kelly has late first-round talent, but he could go 3rd day, somewhere between the 5th and 7th round there. So, you got him. He really could run the spectrum. in the NFL draft. He's going to get drafted. We know that.
Yeah, I think so too.
So he's going to go somewhere between the end of the first round and the 7th round. I don't think he's still around come the 7th round. We're talking about an SEC quarterback who's put up good numbers.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to go between first 1 and 4. He's going to go in the first 4 rounds. But you think about Tony Romo, he played at Eastern Illinois. He played nowhere. He put up great numbers there, but he didn't play at a named school in a named conference.
That's right.
He went undrafted. And you think about 13 years later, he's still with the same team that took him.
Turned out pretty well for
as
him.
An undrafted free agent. But then on the flip side of that, you got Brett Favre, who was an early 2nd round pick. I'm not sure if he was the 1st or 2nd pick of the 2nd round for the Falcons. But these guys all play the same style. They have the same set of tools. And Romo and Favre have proven that this style of football, as a quarterback, this style of quarterback can work at the professional level.
Yeah, the biggest thing is going to be for Chad is going to be, what is his football IQ? How well does he really know the game? How well is he going to be a student of the game? And because when you go out, when these scouts are, it's not just the scouts, it's the scouts, the coaches. When these guys are out there studying quarterbacks and they bring them in, they put you up there and make you dissect plays. What do you see? How does this play affect you? That's what we really haven't seen. We know he's out there. He can go and he can draw it up in the dirt and play football. And I think he has a passion for the game. I don't think there's any question about that. You see his toughness when he's out there playing. But what's his football IQ like? With some of these offenses, the way they play now, you don't really get to see a lot of that. And I think that's the question of some of these quarterbacks who come out of college who don't play in pro-style offenses, where they have to, when you're standing there and the sideline is giving you all your information, you don't have to get under center.
And you're taking the majority of your snaps in the shotgun.
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions still, but I agree with you. I think he'll go first 4 rounds.
But you talked about Dak Prescott earlier. Dak Prescott was in a similar situation at State. He didn't get under center. He got a lot of his information from the sidelines. He didn't have to go in there, do a huddle, call up a play. And he went in the 4th round, and really he's proven in the NFL this year that he should have been drafted much higher.
Exactly. A lot of teams are kicking themselves, which may improve Chad Kelly's draft stock this year, because there's going to be after a lot of teams saw what happened with the Cowboys and Dak Prescott and how many times they passed on a really good quarterback that no one thought was going to be as great as he's proven to be so far this year. You have a lot of teams that are going to pick some of these quarterbacks higher than maybe they should have went.
And you a lot of the early draft predictions that I've seen have the top 3 quarterbacks being Deshaun Watson at Clemson, Deshaun Kaiser at Notre Dame, and Brad Kaya at Miami. Chad Kelly can very easily replace Brad Kaya there and become that number 3, or you can say that he's number 4. But you think the first 3, Kaiser, Watson, and Kaya, they're probably all going to go in the first round.
Yeah.
If not, they'll be gone by the early part of the 2nd round. So really, you're looking at Chad Kelly in that early 2nd to, I would say, mid 3rd round. It really comes down to need, and there are a lot of quarterback needy teams.
Boy, there really is going to be.
Think about the Browns need a quarterback.
Yeah.
The 49ers are going to need a quarterback. Who else we have? Roethlisberger's getting long in the tooth.
Yeah.
Landry Jones isn't going to be able to throw the ball down the field. He's not a gunslinger. He's a dink and dunk guy. And at the NFL level, that just doesn't win you games. Even though you have Le'Veon Bell, which you can get the ball to him in the most creative of ways, they could still possibly use a backup depending on how long Ben's going to play. Eli Manning, he's not going to play with the Giants forever.
No.
I mean, he could try to be like Peyton, but he's people who play as long as Peyton Manning did and Brett Favre did and Tom Brady has at that quarterback position, those are few and far between.
That's right.
So there's no surefire guarantee that Eli's going to be able to play that long. So the Giants could actually be looking for a backup quarterback, someone that they can groom, and Chad Kelly would be perfect for that.
Exactly. It's going to be fun to watch, see what happens. Give us some good ideas for some future shows after the season.
Absolutely.
All that good stuff, so we got a lot to talk about then. So anyway, that's it for this week, guys. We got to get out of here. Lots more stuff to talk about on our college football edition from this past weekend. That's going to be intense. Follow us on our Patreon.com pages, patreon.com/SportsClash. You can follow us on Twitter at SportsClashRad, Facebook, Sports Clash Radio. Leave your comments under the YouTube videos. Subscribe to our channel. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. Fins Up Podcast. Go to that one. Follow us on Facebook at our Fins Up Podcast page. our videos are everywhere. We're trying to get them out there. We need you, the Rebel fans, to come out, support us at Fins Up Podcast, and try to make this thing take off. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. Do you agree with our assessment of Chad Kelly? Do you not? Are you tired of us being a little rah-rah? Are you tired of us really picking on the team? Hopefully that's not what we're trying to do, is pick on the team, but facts are facts when you look at some of this stuff, and it's a harsh reality sometimes, especially when your team's losing. Nobody really likes to talk about that.
Right.
But you know what? It's our job. It's kind of what we have to do, so it's been bittersweet the last couple of weeks, but they're going to kick the living crap out of Georgia Southern this weekend, so at least we'll go next week on a positive note. So guys,
hell yeah, damn right.
We'll talk to you later. Hotty toddy, fins up.